Welcome to CareCast, CareNet's podcast on family, faith, and life with Roland, CareNet's president and CEO, and Vincent DiCaro, CareNet's chief outreach officer. CareCast and more pro-abundant life commentary from CareNet can be found at care-net.org, where you can watch videos, download ebooks, and subscribe to the Abundant Life blog. Now let's listen in on what Roland and Vince have for us this week on CareCast.
Welcome to another episode of CareCast. Again, we apologize in advance that you actually have to see us now on our on these CareCast for years, many years, nearly a decade.
Yeah.
We have been audio only.
Yeah, we have.
And we've decided to treat our listeners to video as well.
Yeah. And you've got a jean jacket on too.
I know I picked the right day to wear the jean jacket.
Yeah, it's freezing in here. I wish I had a jacket of some sort.
And this
jean
jacket,
or otherwise.
This jacket is pretty warm. So
yeah.
It's but I wear it more for the style, the fashion.
Yeah.
It's not very practical per se, but
kind of tapping into your inner James.
Yeah, right.
Right. I looked at that.
I try.
Or the boss, right?
Yeah,
Bruce
the boss. Yeah, I'm
or,
from Jersey. He's from Jersey. So,
yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But as you know, Roland, and there's a lot of always chatter around our office as well. But this kind of just this big question of what is the state of the pro-life movement?
Yeah.
Where are we? Where do we need to go? Are we winning? Are we losing? Or somewhere in between? Like what's happening, right? We point to a lot of different things that can indicate that it's not really a very simple answer to that question. There's obviously been a lot of great victories, and there's amazing victories happening every day on the front lines with our pregnancy centers and churches that are just saving lives and building families. But unfortunately, when you look at the kind of the big picture around this issue, the number of abortions seems to be going up after Roe versus Wade was overturned, primarily because of the abortion pill.
Yeah.
And just, other cultural factors, I think, that have continued to just make abortion more and more of a thing that's considered culturally acceptable and not a problem in any way, shape, or form. And so we have all these forces that are competing with each other and creating a very complicated situation. And so the good news is I think we're actually seeing folks, for the first time in many years, I think, really asking some really hard questions about what is the future of the pro-life movement.
Yeah.
Where does this need to go? Where are we really? You kind of talk about it, the red dot moment when you go into the mall and look at the big map, and the first thing you do is try to find the dot that says we are here.
Yeah.
I think we've often said that we haven't always had honest conversations about where that dot is, and I think we actually are now.
Yeah.
Which is good. But the question is, what kind of questions are we actually asking,
right.
And what kind of answers are we going to come up with? And so, to that point, there was a really interesting article that came out recently that was titled, "Does the Fight to End Abortion Need a Reset?"
Yes, a reset.
Yeah, and it was by Jesse Hughes in the American Reformer, and he was actually analyzing a speech that was given by Steve Deese, who writes for The Blaze. And so there are prominent folks out there asking these questions. And so you and I kind of took a look at this article and said, oh, wow, does the pro-life movement need a reset? And, we've kind of been talking about that sort of thing here at CareNet. Why don't you kind of just talk folks through sort of the question that they asked and the answer that they came up with, and why maybe we need to actually ask a different question?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because there is a lot of dialogue out there about, where should the movement be heading, and, and this whole notion about a reset. And resets are neither good nor bad. I mean, It's what you're resetting from and what you're resetting to.
That's right. I remember I used to reset my Nintendo quite a bit when the game was broken, and, that was a good reset. Because then I'd get to play Super Mario Brothers again. Yeah.
There you go.
So that's a good reset.
A good reset.
Right? That's a great example.
Of a good reset. Yeah. And that's exactly where I was heading.
Yes, I could tell. I just wanted to...
I was hoping you wouldn't beat me to the punch on that, and you just took the words right...
Oh, my gosh. Yep.
Right,
you were thinking Super Mario Brothers. I know it.
Who couldn't?
Yeah, right. Who wouldn't? Right, yes.
Right. Even without a jean jacket, that's still where I was heading.
I know, okay.
But so I think that's an interesting thing, and I think as you kind of read the piece, he kind of goes back. He goes through a number of different perspectives, like what's happening out there in the movement, and the whole focus around incrementalism versus maybe the abolitionists, and all of these things back and forth. And I think one of the things that you find in this article, and with so many pieces that you read, when they're talking about a reset, it's all in terms of a political perspective.
Right.
Like we're in this political playpen, and do we reset it over here or do we reset it over there? But the playpen that we're in, it's always political.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily get bigger or smaller. It's the same playpen, the same players in the playpen.
Yes.
And it's just kind of shuffling the deck around, or however you want to put it.
Exactly. So it sounds like it's a paradigm shift, but it's actually not.
Right.
Because you're still locked into the same paradigm, if you will, which is the political narrative.
Right.
And you're just talking about whether this versus that, but always within a political narrative.
Right.
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 And as I read that article, I had that same impression. And, one of the things for me that's been pretty central to how I've started to think about this issue is something that we're calling around here the central question, right? And the central question, and as Christians, right? So if a woman came to you and she was pregnant, the pregnancy was unplanned, she was at risk for abortion, and you could change everything except the fact that she was pregnant, what would you want for her? And moreover, as a Christian, what do you think God would want you to want for her? Right?
Yeah.
And you just start walking through that perspective, like, wait a minute. So hold on a second. So wait a minute. So is that in the political narrative, right? Like in the political playpen, how could you respond to that question?
Right.
Right. You only have political answers to that question. Like, what would you want for her? Right. It would all be around a political framework. Like it's what you,
which would be a very, very incomplete and probably not very compassionate answer in terms of what you could actually do for that woman in that situation.
what you could do for the, and I'll give you just sort of a biblical illustration that sort of gives you that framework, right? So I love talking about, Solomon, right? So Solomon's wisest man that ever lived, and there's this one story in Scripture that really illustrates his wisdom, right? Was when he had two women come to him with one baby, right? And the one mother said that the baby was hers. The other mother said the baby was hers. And Solomon, this man of wisdom, is supposed to decide whose baby is this. Right. So everybody knows the story. He says, "Hey, well, bring me my sword," and he's going to split the baby. And you'll get some, and you'll get some. Right. Done.
Right.
And obviously, people are like, "Oh my gosh, he's going to split the baby. He's going to kill the baby. He's going to split the baby." Well, when you think about Solomon in that context, he's answering that question through a political perspective, because he's basically operating as a king.
Right.
Essentially, because there's an archetype to Christ, or a crystal perspective. He's a king, he's a prophet, he's a priest. He's operating as a king, which is a political position, right, in terms of his role. And what does the king have? I have the sword.
Right. So he's purposely showing what the shortcomings are of a strictly political perspective when you're trying to mete out justice.
Exactly, because if you're solving for justice and righteousness and mercy, especially for the vulnerable, if all you have is a sword,
you end up splitting the baby.
That's all you got.
Yeah.
You're always going to end up splitting the baby. And that's kind of what we've gotten to in the pro-life movement, because it's, quote, the incrementalist approach. And then the abolitionist approach is really rejecting that. But you're still in the same...
You're looking at it from a strictly political perspective.
Yep. And so then when he asks that question, the one who's truly the mother says, no, it's her baby.
Right.
The woman whose baby it's not.
Right. So that she can save the baby's life.
Exactly. Because she's, in my view, kind of the pro-abundant life woman, right? She's willing to sacrifice some of her happiness, right? Some of her desire to protect the vulnerable.
That's right.
And what I would call the pro-choice woman, it's like, well, I'm fine with it. Dead baby.
Right.
That kind of a thing. I'm fine with half, right? She doesn't even object.
Right.
But Solomon does that to show you that if you're looking at an issue that requires justice, righteousness, mercy, and protection of the vulnerable, if you only keep it in the political playpen, you're going to end up sacrificing the vulnerable.
Yeah,
and then he pivots to really essentially his role as a prophet and a priest, or maybe a priest perspective in terms of looking at this. And then he comes up with, and he gives the baby to the woman, who was willing to give the baby to the other woman,
because he knew she was the true mother.
She knew it was the true mother.
Yeah.
So that's why I think when I read these kind of articles, I feel like the same kind of thing.
Right. And so that gets you back to this. So therefore. So you kind of said, while we were kind of thinking about what we were going to say today, you said, if you ask the wrong questions, you'll end up getting, you get the right answer, but it's to the wrong question, and so it ends up being the wrong answer. Right?
Exactly.
And so, to your point, the right question we should be asking is that central question.
Yes.
If you could change anything about her situation, what would that be? And what would God want you to want for her?
Yes.
And so, and again, really thinking about, and so I guess from our perspective as a pro-abundant life ministry, we're thinking that what the reset needs to be in the pro-life movement is, how should Christians answer that question?
Yes.
from clearly a political perspective is important in here, but also a ministry perspective, a service perspective, a compassion perspective, what do we do to serve and love people, right? So what programmatically, rhetorically, culturally, what are all the things that we need to as Christians to answer that question? And that's how you figure out what the reset needs to be, right?
Exactly. And here's the thing. You have to have a priority.
Right.
Right? So right now, the politics are the priority. Right? And so you end up with split babies. Ministry is not the priority. See, if ministry is the priority, like in Solomon's sense, you don't end up with split babies.
Right.
So right now, we have the kind of the sword leading the movement, so to speak, because it's all in the political realm. And frankly, the reset is actually the politics must decrease and ministry must increase. I mean, that's what you see reflected in Solomon's story.
Absolutely.
And when you have that, guess what? You get less split babies.
Right.
So if you walk through, they say, so what would I want for that woman?
Yeah.
Right? So I should want her to have the baby. Okay, great. I should want the father to be involved, right? As what? A baby daddy that brings diapers every now and then? No, I should want him to be a husband to her and a father to the child growing inside her. Like, remember, you can change everything.
Right. We would want an involved, responsible, and committed father.
Exactly. I can change everything except the fact that she's pregnant, right? And then you say, okay, well, what else? Well, I want more than just a father. I want him to be a good husband and a father, right? So I want her to have a husband for her and a father for the child growing inside of her. But okay, anything else? I mean, let's keep going. I mean, I'm a Christian. Well, I want that child to be raised up in the fear and admonition of the Lord, right? So I want that family to be a family that makes disciples. I want that family connected to the local church. I want them to be disciple makers who live and love like Jesus, right? So that's what I would want. That's the high I think. Now here's the problem. The political playpen that you're in doesn't give you any of those things.
Right.
It doesn't give you the family because we're struggling to define even what the family is in the political context, right? And that's not just on the left. That's also on the right. Like there's not a full-throated support for the traditional family. I mean, the Republicans pulled traditional marriage out of the platform this year.
That's right. Yep.
Pulled it out.
Yep.
Right. So again, if you're solving for that. You're not getting that here.
Right. Yep.
So if that political narrative's leading, you don't get quote involved fathers married to the mother. Like that's not, you're not ever going to get to that perspective.
Right.
So you've got so the reset really is moving out of letting the political part dictate and lead.
Right.
Which has led to split babies.
Right.
And let the ministry part lead. And so I talk about it in the context of exchanging the podium, the political podium for the pulpit.
That's right. Yes.
Right? The pulpit that has that perspective.
Right. So the church needs to be leading what we would call not just a pro-life, but a pro-abundant life movement, because the answer to that central question is only something that we can accomplish with the church, right?
Yep.
So choosing life, choosing family, choosing fatherhood, choosing marriage, making disciples, people becoming disciples who make disciples.
Yes.
This can't happen, literally cannot happen without the church. And so again, it's about the reset coming into play where Christians are basically seeing that, it's us, it's the Church of Jesus Christ that actually needs to be leading the pro-life movement. And that's the true reset.
Yes.
That's it's the only way that we're gonna get a different result.
Exactly.
Right?
And when you reset it that way, I mean, this isn't just some esoterical argument. I mean, the data supports it. Look, 87% of the women that have abortions are unmarried. What does that tell you?
Right.
Well, if you really want to end abortion, you want to reduce abortions, guess what you're going to have to do? Strengthen marriages.
Right.
Okay, so if I want to strengthen marriages, who do I need? Guys. I need men. And what do I need men to be? Husbands and fathers.
Right.
We also we know that.
Yeah.
Well, and if as Christians, our call is to live out the Great Commandment to fulfill the Great Commission. Right? So that means that we need to be in this notion of making disciples, and every good work that we do should lead to discipleship, right? Because that's what Jesus did, right? All the good works that he did led to discipleship. Well, what does that mean? Well, what's the seat of discipleship?
Of the church.
The political pulpit?
No. Yeah.
The political narrative, rather?
Yeah, I heard somebody say that the pro-life movement isn't going to come in on Air Force One or something like that. Yeah.
No, it's none of that in there is going to get you there, because the seat of discipleship is the local church.
Right.
So God's design for family, God's call to discipleship. Not in the political playpen.
Yeah.
It's not even part of it. So if you're really solving for this, and you really want this high idea that we talked about, the only reset that's going to make that happen is this pro-abundant life perspective, where it's God's design for family, right? Based on John 10:10, right? That whole notion of life and life abundantly, and then the birth of Christ as sort of a framework of the, God's design for family, that, Mary facing an unplanned pregnancy from a human perspective. God didn't give her a baby daddy and a check. He gave her a husband for her and the father, with the child growing inside of her. And then God's call to discipleship, which is obviously the Great Commission, what Christ said, go and make disciples. So if it's a good work to help someone who's facing a pregnancy decision, bring the child into the world, that's a discipleship framework. And then we want that couple, connected to the church for ongoing support and discipleship. That's the high idea. And the reset that's articulated in this article doesn't
get you to any of that.
It doesn't get you to any of that.
Right. And another way in which this is not just theoretical or esoteric. I think you used the word esoteric.
I did.
That's good. That was a good one.
It was an SAT word.
That was almost as profound as me talking about Super Mario Brothers.
It was nip and tuck.
It was nip.
It was nip and tuck.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So you came close, but I win this time.
I strive.
I win this one. But another way in which this is not esoteric or theoretical is we see this happening. Yes. We just filmed an absolutely incredible film down in Orlando that's going to be released probably in January of 2026. So depending on when you're listening to this, it's either coming soon or it's just released. So go to our website, care-net.org, to find it. But we just filmed an incredible film down in Orlando at First Baptist Orlando, which is an amazing church in Orlando that has actually opened a pregnancy center on the campus of the church.
Yes.
And they're living out and playing out exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
In terms of helping people choose life, helping people build strong God-honoring families, and making disciples for Jesus Christ. And it's all happening there under the leadership of this church, with a pregnancy center attached to the leadership of the church and operating as a ministry of the church. It's an absolutely incredible example of exactly what we're talking about when we say pro-abundant life ministry.
Yes.
So we say that a lot. Well, what does that look like?
Yes.
Go read about First Baptist Orlando and what they're doing with this pregnancy center, and this is the vision in reality. Right?
No, it is, and what you saw was nearly 300 families.
It was over 400. I think it was something like 430 families.
Wow, yeah.
That visited the pregnancy center last year are now attending the church.
Isn't that something?
And it's unbelievable.
So it's God's design, and most of those couples are the father and the mother.
They are marrying couple. They help them choose life. They bring them over to the chapel. They get married. They bring them up to the baptismal font. They get baptized. I mean,
and then they disciple that couple as part of the body of Christ. Isn't that what we want?
Yeah. Yes.
Isn't that what we want?
Yes.
Well, if that's what we want, then
we need to reset the pro-life movement to get us that.
And again, the only reset is that the local church has to lead on this, right? Because the only entity on this earth that has that narrative is the Church of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, for sure.
So, we're going to continue to keep getting what we've been getting if we keep doing what we've been doing.
Right.
So we can continue to have these conversations about reset, this, that, and the other, and incremental, this. It's a paradigm shift, but it's a very different framework that we have to be looking at if we want something different. And again, as we sort of end this, ask yourself a question. Is that where you're spending your kind of pro-life dollar? Like you would say that this is what you want, right? You could change everything. But is that wof you're spending your pro-life dollar? Is that where you're spending your pro-life time creating that?
Right.
And I'll say one other thing that puts a finer point on this to really kind of give you even better sort of biblical narrative. Isaiah 7:14 says, Scripture says that a virgin will conceive and bear a child.
Right.
Okay. Now, God comes to Mary, who's carrying the Christ child, right? He's locked himself in with his word. He's not going to violate his word.
Right.
So a virgin must conceive and bear a child. So God's okay. This is like, I'm here with this scenario. I'm not going to violate my word. I'm dealing with Mary. I can change everything except the fact that she's pregnant.
Right.
And what did he do?
Husband, father, disciples.
He created a family.
Right. Right.
Told Joseph, be a husband to her, a father to the child growing inside of her. So they were a father and mother, united in marriage, loving each other, loving their child, and loving God. And then to what end? To be disciple makers who make disciples like who? The child she was carrying inside of her.
That's right. Right.
So it's all there.
The model for Christians is there.
The model for Christians is there,
Yeah.
and God the Father
Yeah.
was dealing with the same dilemma in a sense that we're and what did he do? Shouldn't we do the same thing?
Right. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to sort of sum it up and really help folks understand, what we're saying when we say that we need to be a pro-abundant life movement, and B, one led by the church, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's exactly what we're talking about. And so, yeah, thank you, Ron. I'm glad.
Yeah, no, and one last thing before we jump off, because we've got tools to help make that happen.
Yeah, for
making
sure.
making life disciples,
Yep.
which folks can.
Yeah,
go
we'll
to.
put the link on the
Yeah,
screen for
Making Life
makinglifedisciples.com, where
Yep.
you can get it's a program, a small group study that you could do, at your church.
Create
with your
small groups to
Right.
help those couples move from the pregnancy center to the church for ongoing support and discipleship.
That's right.
And also so you have a ministry on-ramp in your church. So if a woman's facing a pregnancy decision, takes a pregnancy test on Sunday morning, the news is that the test is positive, but the news for her is negative, that she's got a ministry on-ramp to do that, engage in the father. We have a lot of work that we're doing around the fatherhood piece to kind of bring the guy in right there at the start of that, because we know he's the most influential in her decision to abort. And we also know that we can't get God's design for family without engaging men. So we've got all these resources because our whole ministry is focused on answering that central question exactly the way God the Father did.
That's right. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Ron. Glad we found that article. And
Yes.
I think that was a really, really good analysis that you brought to it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of CareCast. For more Pro-Abundant Life commentary and practical resources, please visit care-net.org. There you can subscribe to the Abundant Life blog, giving you access to videos, ebooks, podcasts, and other resources to help turn your pro-life passion into pro-abundant life action. Until next time, we pray that God blesses you and yours daily.